Hello, everyone. How are you? Unfortunately, we cannot hear you because it's a one-way conversation on these webinars.
Yes, it is.
Welcome to our, what was that?
I said, yes, it is.
Yes, it
We're
is.
normally very witty, funny people, and we have a hard time doing that with anybody besides each other because we can't hear your reply.
Right. So when we say, how are you, we're expecting you to yell very loudly at your computer. Great.
Correct. Yes.
So welcome. It's Wednesday, December 5th at 2 o'clock, and this is our Wednesday webinar. The voices that you are hearing are myself. I am Joel. I'm the one on the right. I'm a training and implementation specialist. And Jenny.
Yeah. Hey, Joel, I can't see your presentation. I still see the
Oh,
white screen. Is that everybody else too, or am I the only one?
no, you're right. It's one of those where I have the wrong thing showing too. So let's go over here to this screen.
We're getting some hellos in the comment box. Robert Garcia,
There we
hello to
go.
you too. There we are.
It's like I feel like I haven't done this in a while. We've taken a break from our webinars or something with all the conferences we've been going to. So yes, I'm Joel and Jenny is with me, and we are your hosts today for our webinar, and our topic is the mid-year checkups, which sounds very, after I said it, it sounds like something you would do with your doctor.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
We promise it won't be painful.
Yeah, I want to say this. This webinar, all the information that we're providing it's optional. This isn't something that we are saying, hey, you need to go in and do this. Everything that we're covering is really just to make sure all of your systems are operating, and it's a way for you or your eduphorian or your team to go in and make sure that everything is set up so that when you get towards the end of the year, you know that all of your data is registering correctly. So we're just going to go through all the different applications and what type of reports you can be running now to make sure everything is in working order, and also some ways to use those reports now to help in the future. But again, it is optional. Don't feel like you have to go and do these things. We know that you are busy in your districts, as even as the semester is wrapping up, you probably have a lot of things on your plate. So just sit back, relax, don't yell at your computer like we were saying a while ago, unless you want to.
Hmm.
But we are really just focusing on the data. And so this one was titled Midyear Checkups. It's also a very Eddie Christmas. And if you know the 80s, this was taken off the very Brady Christmas. So we're focusing
Clever,
on
Joel.
the
Clever.
applications. Thank you. You know, we have some millennials in our office that just don't get this. They don't
Uh-huh.
understand Brady Christmas. And I'm like, oh, goodness, I'm so old. Like all of our webinars, there is some interactivity. If you have questions or comments, there's a little box in the GoToWebinar window, and you can post your questions in there. I will tell you this, like Jenny is an awesome aware trainer. Like she knows how to answer all of those aware questions. So while she's presenting about aware and you're posting questions, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to have really great answers. Uh,
Yeah.
while I'm presenting on all the other things, she might
Yes.
struggle with some of the questions. So we're going to try to answer all of your questions toward the end of this webinar. And then in between, like while she's talking, I can go back through those questions and answer them as I can. But we will try to address all of your questions. And if they're in writing in the questions box, we can answer those at the end of this. So please post
Absolutely.
those in there. I also want to point out we just published our upcoming events for the spring semester. It's been really busy for us. We've been traveling all over the state at our ESC partners. And so these are available inside of our help article. I'll show you how to get there in a little while. But just letting you know that we have upcoming events coming up in January, February, and March of different conferences that we host with our ESC partners at the ESCs themselves. These are free conferences. So when you go into help, for example, through our application, you can go to the announcements and training section, and it's listed under upcoming events. We have links to some of these. I believe we're still waiting on the right link to the Region 9 event, and also the link to the ESC 4 and ESC 5 event in Beaumont. So right now we have links to the Austin and Victoria one. We're also going to have booths at the TASA Midwinter Conference and at the TCEA event. So we're hoping that you'll make it to at least one of these conferences so that we can see you. We like to interact with our customers. So please come and say hi. Did you have anything to add, Jenny? Sorry.
No, oh no, I was muted, so I did
Oh,
earlier add something and no one heard me.
oh,
But yeah, no, we're excited about those. I just noticed the Region 4, Region 5 is a combo. That's good. So that'll be the first time Region 4 has actually had a conference. So that's exciting.
oh, that is exciting. Very good. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to look at the different applications and what you can be doing inside of those applications to just make sure things are running okay, and also how to pull reports. For the instructional side, we're going to cover Aware. Jenny's going to cover that. More than just looking at the data, of course, in Aware, it's also some tips and strategies for planning for the spring for more of that data to come in. I'm going to be covering the Strive and the Forethought side, looking at making sure that your templates are tagged so that data is coming in, so that when your principals and are getting ready for doing the summative, they can start seeing all the information on the side, making sure everything's there. And then in Forethought, looking to make sure that the standards are updated, folders are updated. If you're using checklists, that those are updated as well. For the logistical tools, help desk, there's things that we can run in there. There's different reports that can be run, especially at the year's end, to get information about tickets and how the technicians are doing. Form space, making sure all of those workflows are up to date, especially if staff changes are occurring at the break. And then also in facilities and events, making sure not only are the workflows up to date, but also that the inventory. I was a tech director once, and inventory was done twice a year. So we'll talk about all the different things in those tools for those mid-year checkups and ways for you to go in and get that information. So let's go. We're going to start with the logistical tools just to kind of get those out of the way and to show different reports that you can run in there. I wanted to start with help desk. Like I said, I was a tech director. So one thing that I would run in help desk at the mid-year point and also at the end of the year was the ticket export report. And it's in the report section. It's the spreadsheet looking one at the top. And what I liked about this specific report tool was that I could drag over the columns that I wanted in the report. So I can look at specific requests, the date that it was submitted, the type, when the ticket closed. And then I could also use the filtering. It has this add filter. So when you select a section, you can add a filter. I always put in the start of the school year to filter out anything previous to the school year because I wanted the relevant data for the year. And then I could pull that spreadsheet and get that information. And it was mostly for me in the department to have that information. How many tickets did we have generated over the course of the start of school to the end of the semester? But it was also information that I could share with my supervisor. So if you're using help desk or if you are connected with your tech director, it might be a good idea to just pull this information so that they have an idea of how many tickets are coming in by semester. It was also good for me to share with my supervisor, just letting them know, hey, this is how many tickets we're seeing this year or this semester. So you could actually have that type of reporting by semester to know when there was more demand on your support team. So this is a great report to run to kind of see how things are going. It also is great for goal setting, maybe looking at how we're closing tickets in a timely way and making goals to get more of those tickets closed in the future. Another report that can be run is actually in the reports as well. You can do the department statistics, and this is what it looks like when you run department statistics. Know that you can sort by 3 buttons. You can look by specific campus, technician, or request type. And what I did is I blocked out the names here. That's why this orange block is here. But if I have these technicians, it's going to show how many tickets are open, what their average resolution time is. I can even set a time frame by month, or I could go for the whole semester. But I can get that information to see how my technicians are doing over the course of the year. Again, this is optional. It's not anything that you have to do. It's just a good way to kind of check in to see how things are going. Another way to sort is by request type. It's going to list all your different request type categories and also provide that information about the time it takes to close those tickets. If you're using any type of surveys, it'll have the satisfaction rating with those as well. Okay. Any questions on help desk coming in, Jenny?
No, we're good. I don't see any new.
I know help desk is one of those. It just kind of runs and runs and runs, so it's fine. Form space, just a reminder. Form space, it's another one of those. Again, these logistical ones, they just run. Most people don't really touch anything till the end of the year, but something that happens usually around this time, you might have some staff changes. So it's always a good idea to make sure to know who is leaving the district and making sure that they are not part of a workflow where they're an approver for any type of form. If you know in advance that that person is leaving, it's a good idea to go ahead and plan for when you're going to update the workflow and maybe use the tool that's in management. It's in general options. It's the replace user utility, and this will allow you to select the staff member who is leaving and then insert the person who is going to replace them. I will say, on my own use of the software in the districts where I worked, it's usually a very good idea and very considerate to inform the new person that they're going to be an approver before you add them into the workflow. I personally have had experience of not doing that and getting a really kind of interesting response from that person about that. So just make sure that you are going in and updating those workflows and also notifying those people and also training them on how they can be the approver for that form.
Well, I have
Yeah.
a couple of questions that came in for help desk after you had changed applications.
Sure.
One user is asking how to close a ticket.
Okay.
And so if you want to show that.
Yeah. I'm going to get out of this and I'm actually going to go into help desk. And it's actually dependent on the rights. So if you're a technician, and if I go into manage and I have managed my technicians, one of their rights in the system is to be able to force ticket close if they need to. If they don't have that option, then they may not have that ability to close the ticket.
Okay, that's probably right.
Yeah, and another one is being able to close tickets for other technicians. So those are specific rights that can be assigned to those technicians. And then and then in the ticket itself, it'll just have a close button at the top. If they don't have that right, the only other option would be to mark delete. And so that's an option to give them as well.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Thank you. And the next one was, hold on one second, I'm replying to her. The next one was help desk stats. Are they correct? Are they accurate?
I would hope so. The way that the reports pull, and sometimes we do get questions about, well, this information doesn't seem correct. And it's one of those, if you just send us an email, if you send it to training@eduphoria.com, it's something I can go in and look at. Okay. But sometimes filters are active and people forget. So they're getting data in the stats that are marked by the filtering. And so that causes a problem sometimes. It's also whether they put in the dates correctly. Sometimes that messes with it, but it's one of those first come, first serve. I can look at it to see what might be coming in, what kind of information is there, to see what it is filtering on.
Okay, so if if you ask that question, you can submit a ticket if your data doesn't look right, and
Yeah,
we'll go over
we'll
it
look at
with.
it. We'll look
Okay,
at it.
great. And then someone asked, is there, I guess this is a forms-based question. Um, is there a way to run a list of people that are noted in workflows to replace? Campuses create their own, so she's not always aware of them. She's at the district office.
The only way is to use that replacement tool. So when you know that a staff member is leaving, it's just all you do is you go into this manage general options, replace user, and you just select the staff member and then replace that staff member. It's only if if someone is in a workflow where they are an approver that is really really necessary. I mean, for notification that would be good too, but there's not a way to generate in form space a list of the people who are leaving the district. Is that what the question was?
I think so. Yeah. Darla, if you have more questions, you can, submit a ticket and we'll address it.
Sure.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
Cindy's was similar to that about. Okay. So I think we're good
Yeah.
on that.
Awesome. That's fine. So that's going to be form space for facilities and events. The mid-year suggestion, also making sure your workflows are up to date. Of course, making sure that reservations are approved. That's always key to using the reservation system. Um, Making sure if you're using calendars that information is being posted to those calendars. I mean, you pretty much know by now if things are being approved or not. Um, so those systems are kind of inherently built in the system. Again, if it's a person who is leaving the district who manages all these things, it's a good idea to make sure that the person next in line is trained to manage those reservations, to approve them, and to publish those events to a calendar, making sure that they're trained with the right information for what their role is in managing any type of asset. The fourth one in here again is what I call the inventory is updated. Again, as a former tech director and someone who had managed a lot of the things that were inside of classrooms and offices, uh, based on the district need and how important keeping an updated inventory was, I ran the asset export twice a year. And in here, it would pull, and it's very similar to that other report that was in Help Desk, where I could pull over the exact columns that I wanted in the report for what I needed. So, very basic inventory would be which building, what type of room, what room number, what is the item, if it was barcoded. And then I could print it to Excel. I could do it by room or I could do it by specific asset. Then I could either, as myself, go room by room or with help, go room by room to verify that those items were still in place. I should have done a poll like how many think it was in place 100%? No, never. Of course not. People move and take things all the time. So that's just a way to make sure that your inventory is up to date. Good time to check at the mid-year point, going room by room. So fun. Um, but just making sure that all the information that you have is available. And again, that asset export will pull in all of the items that you have in your inventory. Anything there?
There was one. I just asked her to submit a ticket
Okay.
on it. So,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. So we're going to look at the instructional tools now. I'm going to hand it over to Jenny. We're going to look at the instructional tools for Aware, Strive, and Forethought. And Jenny, let me pass the mic over to you
Great.
so you can present. I think you'll see a little pop-up saying you're going to present.
Yep, got it. Perfect. All right. So in Aware, again, as Joel said before, all of these are just suggestions. They're not anything that you have to do at this point. Some of them are just things that will make your end of the year a little easier. And some of them are maybe for ease of use for your teachers and campus people if you're at the district level. And I'm going to stay in this mode because I'm going to work between the actual application and the presentation. So rather than closing that window and open it back up again, I'm just going to leave it like this. So one of the things you have to really kind of think about when you are changing semesters is what views are shared. Are these views that you need to update for accountability changes that will be coming this spring? Are they relevant for the time period? At this point during the year, you should have gathered enough assessment data on your students that you have a pretty good profile for every student in your content areas. And STAR data isn't a priority right now, or shouldn't be a priority right now. And so those you can hide from your shared views and kind of prioritize those that are local assessment specific or individual skills within individual SEs and individual student specific that help you kind of guide your both STAR review and just general intervention processes. And so the way to go about that is if you go into My Save Views, and then you go to the Manage Shared Views, you'll have your list of shared views. And so you can go in and just hide them. So if you've got something like this, data viewers, campus teachers, teachers quick, I can select it, hit edit, and then go into my sharing options and just make it a personal quick view or unshare it. Don't make it a quick view. You're not deleting it. You won't have to rebuild it. You can just go back later and share it. So I could go in and select, don't make this a quick view. Don't share with teachers. Just don't share it at all right now. And hit update. And then it will not be in their drop-down list. So one of the biggest things we kind of see with Aware is just managing that list of quick views over time. When you look at that drop-down list, and I'm just in a demo site here, and I go in as a data viewer, if I click on this list and I have 100 things in here or 40 or 50, I'm going to just go back and use these 4 that I know. Just human nature. I'm not going to sort through all of them. So kind of keeping this list maintained is important. And you can certainly go in and maintain the list based on where you are in the school year. So pull the star, pull the tailpass, things you're not currently looking at back right now, and then release it back out as it goes. So you can kind of manage it that way. Another thing good to do at this point is just start cleaning it up. And I have this in a later slide. You know, if they're shared views that you don't know what they are and you're not even sure who shared them, you can go to your saved views and look and see who shared them. A lot of times those people are no longer with the district. You can remove those. My suggestion would always be to, again, unshare it. If nobody says, hey, where's that view? We still use it. Then delete it. But you can always unshare so that you're not having to reinvent the wheel if somebody asks for it, and then reshare if you need to. So again, just kind of keeping this maintained. It should be something you do annually. It certainly doesn't hurt to go in though in the middle of the year and kind of take a look. What that allows you is time to reach out to people or maybe send out a form in FormSpace or a Google Doc or however you communicate in your district and say, who's using what, can we get rid of some of these things? And that gives you kind of the spring semester to start cleaning those things up for next year. The next thing I have in here is to archive assessments. Again, totally optional. You can go in at this point during the year and archive assessments. Just use the Mass Archive for that. So under the assessments, go to Mass Edit Assessments. I could go in and just start by searching for active assessments. If I've archived a previous year, then my numbers should be low enough that I can, do like a whole grade level or subject level at a time. If I let those lists get really big, then I have to filter down and filter down and filter down to get. I think you can mass archive about 130 assessments at a time, and so by doing this twice a year, I split the work in half, and I'm able to go ahead and use smaller filter groups and archive more at once. It'll take me less time than if I just wait till the end of the year. So again, I can start mass archiving my assessments. If you need more information on how to use this mass archive tool, we have information in our help section. You can also contact support at eduforia.net. This was released, 4 years ago, I think now, and it's certainly changed a lot of people's lives. Going by one at a time was not fun. And the next thing,
Hey, Jenny,
yes,
there was a question. Is there any way to track who created and shared a view?
yes. So in your shared views, let's go here. If you are the district data admin and you go to manage shared views, you can see everything that's shared at a campus or, as a district. And it will say the person's name. This all says admin, demo, tech, principal. So because this is a demo account, it's weird, but this would say the person's name who created it. It doesn't say when it was shared, but it says how it's shared. Okay, so again, not when it was shared, but how it was shared. So campus data viewers, campus quick, teachers quick. So like this one, everybody in the district can see. And it would have the person's name right here who created it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the next thing I have on the list to do is sort of update and manage monitor groups. You do that under the Students tab. If you go to Manage Monitor Groups, you can go in. Obviously, something like 2015 seniors can probably be deleted. So I could go in and delete that. Again, it's good to do this at least once a year. Monitor groups are things that kind of fluctuate and change, or should be fluctuating and changing throughout the year. And so keeping those updated is important. Deleting any old groups will certainly make it easier because we all know when you get ready to build a data view, let's see, if I go in and I click the edit button here, and I go to columns and I go to monitor groups, it lists them all there. And so newly created, I think, default to the bottom, if I'm not mistaken. But again, keeping these cleaned up will help with this kind of massive list when you get ready to look for that group to, filter by that group, either summarize by it or filter by it in a column. So certainly important to kind of keep those things up. They can get out of hand real quick. I mean, just a couple of years in, say 3 or 4 years in to people building monitor groups, you can get a massive list of groups if you're not managing them. So important to do that. Are we good on questions so far? Or?
Yes, that was just something that was brought in was, one is that it creates those new ones and puts them at the bottom, which is hard to get down to. Being able to sort that would be better. And then also wanting to have that mass delete option would be something that districts are interested in. And that's just not in the system right now. But I know, it's interesting. So many of the questions are the same questions that you and I had as users. So like our training team is made up of former users of the Eduforia product. So the things that other people are saying, I would like this. It's like, well, yes, exactly. We know exactly what you're talking about. Yes,
Absolutely.
You're right.
Yep. Well, you can see in my demo account, I hadn't cleaned up monitor lists and I don't know how long. So, or monitor groups. So I need to do that. It's just something to easy to kind of at the end of the year when you're ready, you go off contract in a week and you have a million things to do and you think, oh, I'll do it next year. So mid-year is not a bad time to kind of do that. The next thing, this next slide is really just about planning. So, when I go to, it's just when I go to aware trainings and I go in August or September or even October of a school year, a lot of times people say, man, it's too late to do that for this year. I wish we would have known that, last year, or we should have started planning for that in the spring to do that this fall because we don't want to make the change now. The year's already started, the year's already rolling, and those things I certainly understand. So think about that before people go off contract. Set up meetings and set up times to discuss how you're going to do things in Eduphoria. Student forums are kind of a perfect example. If you are considering using student forums for RTI or 504, that is a process that has to be put into place and involves multiple people. And so now's the time to kind of have those meetings and build those forms for use for next year. So start thinking about that. What meetings do you need to set up with your stakeholders for the spring? Also, organizing test types is another thing. I didn't put this in there to delete because it's kind of hard to go in when you've got people trained to put assessments in certain places, but kind of start thinking about how you want to organize them for next year. And I put in here, do you have too many? If you're not sure, you probably do. So really, I would say 4 or 5 max, and there may be other people with other opinions, but even giant districts will use 2 or 3 assessment types. So having too many actually makes the system more confusing rather than less. So kind of think about test types, and if that's something you can sort of streamline this year, you'll need to start thinking about that in the spring and meeting with people and deciding how to clean that up, how to go about cleaning it up, or what's the best way, because you'll want the training to be in place for the fall when teachers come back for the following year. And again, data views, that's another thing that kind of gets messy. Like we've talked about, you get that big long list. So what we see a lot is that instructional coaches will go to a training and there'll be 4 instructional coaches on a campus, and they'll all go back and start sending out quick views, sharing quick views, and essentially all 4 have built the same quick views, but that means you have 16 quick views instead of 4 quick views that your teachers are supposed to be looking at. And so kind of discussing that and planning and coming up with a plan for how are we creating new quick views, how are we sharing them, those are important things to kind of think about. In the spring, when you come back, is definitely the time to get started, because again, changing things mid-year can be tricky, but if they come back with a fresh perspective and fresh start and fresh clean system in the fall, that's a great time to do it. So again, thinking about that, you can use a forum to gather info again on who uses what can I delete. And then certainly consider deadlines. Say, if you don't let me know by this date, we're deleting these forms, or we're deleting these, data views. We're getting rid of old things to kind of clean up. And, certainly, again, letting them know well in advance is just general courtesy. So do y'all have any questions?
There's a question in there. I'm going to let you answer it.
Okay, let's see what it does.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like when we have questions. I can make it bigger, but
you're fine. We're chill. All right, I'm going to take control.
Oh, I think I know who this is. Yeah, I have your ticket. So we sent, I think there was an issue with your email, Carrie, and I sent it a couple of weeks ago, the answer to that. I'll reply to you in the ticket on this. So, because that's pretty specific.
Okay. I'm going to go and continue through this we're going to go over to Strive now. So I do a lot of trainings on Strive. Right now, most districts, most schools are in the walkthrough section of the process for evaluation. Goal setting, it may be continuing. There may be mid-year goals that are being put in. But I just want to talk about ways to check for making sure all the data is going into one place. So you want to make sure that your evaluation templates are tagged. And again, I'm going to show that in Strive in just a second. And a quick way to check would be to, if you're not an appraiser, go find an appraiser and have them create a summative document, and it will show on the summative panel if evaluation information is pulling over, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. You can also start running reports. You can start running framework analysis in Strive to see if it is pulling the data that you would be needing to pull around this time or at the end of the school year. And then, of course, you want to make sure that on the workshop side, that all of that summer and start of school year, all of the credit that teachers have submitted, outside credit requests, in district credits, that those have been awarded. Closing out, marking courses completed is part of that as well. That's important because of if you're a district that's using waiver or flex days, and teachers need to know, am I returning on this day in January, or do I have to come in earlier because I didn't get the credits? This would be the good time to make sure that all of those credits are awarded, because you're going to have some upset people if they didn't get their credits in time. Just saying. So I'm going to go over into Strive. I think I was in help desk. Yeah, here we go. And if I'm in the campus view and I'm in my demo account here, and I'm actually going to go to one of my campuses, and like I said, a great way to just check to see that data is coming in, a very simple, easy way is, again, if you have appraisal rights, or if you're friendly with an appraiser, have them go in and on a staff member just create that summative evaluation. I just had a blank. There we go. And when you create the summative, it has the panel automatically on the side, and then you can just open up one of the domains or a dimension, and you'll see goals because goals are tagged by the framework, but then it should start pulling in any of the documents that have been done on that teacher, so that you can make sure that the data is coming in for the summative. And again, it's just checking to make sure that it's going to be ready, so that when your administrators are going to be doing their appraisals, that they have that information in the summative for them. And I made the summative for the teacher, but I'm not going to fill it out. I can delete it. That means all the things that I just did in creating summative for that person will go away. So it's just checking to make sure on that summative panel that data is pulling over. If it is not pulling over, it's going into the settings, appraisal settings, and then in your evaluation templates, you have your, right now, mostly districts are doing walkthroughs. So it's just going into a document, going to make sure that the framework is selected, whatever the framework is that you're using for that particular evaluation template. And then when you get to the edit template, this is where you go in and you select whatever items are for that domain. You can select and tie it to that specific dimension. And so this is a checkbox that's got all of the boxes. I can have, on this type, I can have it selected for multiple dimensions, and then making sure to update. And then you want to update existing documents to push out that you have tagged the content to the specific dimension. That's how the summative knows to pull in that particular response into that summative panel, is that all of your documents that are used that are part of your framework are tagged. When we talk about tagging dimensions, this is what we're talking about. You only have to do it once per template. Just go into the edit template tab and select the dimensions that are needed for that particular template. And this is a step-by-step based on whatever type of document is that you're using. Comment boxes, I think I just did a comment box, but it's just selecting the item, choosing which dimension, click update, save, and then update existing documents to push that out. If it is a grid item, meaning it's a matrix grid on a form, make sure to select the template framework, edit template, and then when you go to the particular grid items, these gold boxes, and I go to rows, on here I don't have the checkboxes. I have to double click to put it in edit mode, and then I can select the one dimension for that grid item and click Update Row. And then once I have all of my rows done, then I can save and update existing documents. And it's a little bit of a process. I always recommend, if you haven't done this step yet, close your door, turn off your phone, take some time and tag those evaluation documents. And then once it's done, it's done. And then the data will start appearing not only in that summative panel for the evaluations that are done in the spring, but also as you're doing reports and analysis are pulling any of those documents that are tagged by dimension. Okay, Jenny, are there any?
Oh, yeah. Let me see. Someone said, is there any way to add the appraisal instrument to the evaluation status report? For example, T-test, T-PES, paraprofessional.
To the, let me see the question. I gotta look at it.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly clear what I thought maybe they meant the specific name because when you go to run the reports, all the names aren't there, but it's not
Oh,
what they were.
I'll have to look at it. I'd have to look at that question to see, and it's not shown on my list, but I'll have to look at that.
Okay, it's pretty far up.
Okay. So reports and analysis, just making sure that that data is there. And I would recommend also at this time, just going ahead and running just a basic report. Like one really good report to run in appraisal reports is the evaluation status. You can do it by school. You can detail by specific appraisers. You want to make sure the start date matches when the appraisal calendar started for this year. You can set it to go for the whole district, or you could select specific campuses. You can export it to a spreadsheet or pull the PDF of it. Not only is this good to kind of see how many walkthroughs have been done so far, or how many evaluations might have been done on staff, or what is going on. It just gives you really good counts for what's going on at the campuses. Now, I visited a district recently where they provided for the leadership team, all the assistant soups and all the principals got this handout. And it was an infographic made by the professional development department. And it was really cool. They just created a really cool infographic that showed how many walkthroughs have been done this school year and how many goals were approved this school year. And it just was a really cool look at what's been going on in the evaluation process for the whole district, with some graphic numbers and kind of cheering on those administrators who are doing such a great job getting all of those things done over the course of the year. So it's a good report to pull, to have that information and just to know what's going on. Similar to help desk, for me, there's a little bit of data that's good to share, and just sharing about how the evaluation process is going district-wide can really influence people and provide them with more positive feedback, just seeing numbers of examples of what's going on. So being able to run those reports would be very helpful. I'd also mentioned the need for making sure that in Strive or Workshop that someone is going in and making sure that all of the credits have been awarded. If you're a credit approver, making sure that you've approved any of those outside credit requests, and then also making sure that any of your courses that have already been completed, maybe from the summer, making sure that they have been marked completed and that everyone who attended those sessions received their credits. So when you have courses that still have the need to mark completed, or they don't have the little green check mark, it means that they're still active courses and the credit has not been fully awarded. So just making sure going in, if you click on any month that it might have something that doesn't have that check mark, it just means someone needs to go in there and mark it completed so those staff members have their credits. Any questions coming in on that?
I have a question. Amber asked, the person that made the infographic used the evaluation status report?
They used multiple things. So they used the evaluation status report. They also gave information from the I just lost my brain for a second. The document analysis report. So they would pull in multiple reports and create the infographics based off of all of the data that was coming in, and just having it on one page that was easy for everyone to see. They didn't provide like, oh, look, how many teachers are scoring proficient and above. They didn't get into the details like that. It was literally just the number of walkthroughs, the number of goals approved, by secondary and elementary. It was really kind of cool.
Okay. No, there's just, so I'll say this, guys. We get a lot of times in the questions during a webinar. I'm gonna pick on Christopher for a second. Like if
Oh
it's an
man.
ongoing issue or something that you've experienced in your software, those really need to be tickets because that's not anything we can address during the webinar or answer on. And so if it's an issue that you've experienced, submit a ticket to support@eduphoria.net, and they'll route it to the appropriate person. Because a lot of times this isn't something I knew was, and it may be an ongoing issue in your district and not others and that kind of thing. And so if you see an issue like that, I know it seems easy to contact a trainer during the webinar, but really your line for help there is to submit a ticket to support@eduphoria.net or click on the help button and submit a request that way.
Yeah. We would love to spend time fixing it. We just
Absolutely.
can't.
Absolutely. So if you're not getting it, you can reopen the ticket on your end and reply to it, and it opens it on our end and just ask for an update. So if you've submitted a ticket and not gotten an update, or certainly go back to that ticket in your email, and when you reply to that email, it will ping us again and let us know that you've not gotten an answer or solution. And it may be that this is buried somewhere in other bugs that they're fixing. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know. I know that fixes and updates to workshops were put on hold to some extent because we're merging it into Strive. And so it could be that once it's fully merged, it's fixed. And that's why they're not putting a developer on that one right now. I just don't know. Again,
Yeah.
reply to your tickets. That is your way to get technical support.
Yeah, we use the terms tickets and email. So on your end, it's an email. On our end, it's a ticket. When you send an email to either training or support, it comes to us as a ticket. And so then we respond, and the communication and the updates go to you as email. So we use those words interchangeably. I just was making sure everyone knew what we were talking about. If you just email, all you have to do is email,
Yep.
or you could do where you go and click on support and put in a ticket. Either way, it's all through email communication with us.
Right.
Okay. Forethought. So let's talk about forethought. Just some mid-year things to look for. You want to make sure, hopefully by now, your learning standards are up to date. Every district has the control to update their own standards, making sure that the TEKS, if you're Texas, are up to date, that your unit folders in the system are also up to date. I know some districts that are using the TRS or the C-Scope system, that there was a recent update that they did to science folders, and there have been questions about, well, why wasn't that updated in Eduphoria? And it's because we're not connected completely where it's updating one system to another. If you have had your folders moved over from TRS, it's kind of like a snapshot of the moment. It brings over at that point that folder structure that you had in that system. And then any point after that snapshot, you are responsible, or someone who manages in your district goes in and updates those folders as needed. And we can show you step by step how to do those things. I'm fully trainable or trained in doing that. I've provided many trainings on that. If you need help with that, you can always contact us, the email training@eduforia.net, and we can show you that. And then I wanted to mention the lesson checklist. I think the last webinar that I did was on Forethought. I did it with Paige, and we were talking about activities and lesson checklists. And these are a great tool to have when there's items that you need to see are being used in the classroom. It could be technology, it could be instructional strategies, but they're checklists that can be added in where a teacher in the lesson planner, instead of having to type all the different items that they're incorporating into a lesson, can have a checklist where they select specific items instead. And then there's a report that can be run on the admin side or the principal side to look at the checklist by month. And so the screenshot that I have on the slide shows how a lesson checklist can be provided over a point of time, and the items that would be grouped. So, and I can show you the lesson checklist in Forethought. We would have a group. This one is structure group, and then these are the sub categories inside there for the check. So over the month, you can see how many times those items were used in lessons for that district or for campus. Same down here, it's a different group of items, evidence of learning. How many times were those items selected inside of a Forethought lesson? So if I go into, let me go back to my slide here. We go back to Forethought. And in the Manage tab under Forethought Options, these are the lesson checklists. This is where you can enable that you're going to use lesson checklists. You create your group, that's that heading for the report, and then you can put the items in there. The required is a note that was added. It doesn't make it a required. It's not required. It's just a note inside the actual item that this would be a required item to select in a lesson checklist. And so this is how that would be set up. It's also where you would set up your standards decorators. This is where you can put in the different colors that are there and select what those decorator names would be, and then whether or not that decorator would be active in your lesson planner for your scope and sequence. So that in Forethought, when you're running reports, just reports that you can run, you can look at your standard coverage. So for the school year, you could pull that information, look at a specific campus, look at specific courses. It drills into the tree, and then you can submit that report to see how the learning standards are being covered over the course of this year. Here's that lesson status report. This is what you would run for seeing that your teachers are submitting lesson plans. You can select it by school. It'll have the list of all the teachers. It is by week, and it just provides a list of the teachers Monday through Friday, and puts a check mark if they have submitted their lesson plans. And then the checklist usage report follows what is selected in those lesson checklists that are available in the lesson planner. I'll impersonate a teacher in a second so you can see what that looks like in the planner itself. But again, that's set up in the Manage tab. It's just a way to provide an alternative way to have teachers select specific items, specific focuses that might be part of the school year, maybe goals for the district. Like a tech director, when we would purchase technology, we needed to run a report on use. The lesson checklist was very helpful because I could list those specific items that might have been paid for by a grant or by a specific department, or were going to be an intervention tool. And then we could run a checklist report to see how the item was used across the district or that specific campus to make sure those items were used. So if I go in, I'm going to impersonate one of my little teachers here just to show that little planner. Let's see here. And so when I go into my planner, and in the gray bar, it says click here to select those item checklists. And then here are those different checklists that can be incorporated into the lesson plan. This is a long list. It's an example, but you might have just a few items here. And then that teacher can go in and select those specific items that they're using as part of this specific lesson. How are we doing, Jenny?
We're good. No questions.
Perfect. Forethought? No questions.
Mm-mm.
That's good. We've done a good job. Oh my goodness, we're almost out of time too.
I
Okay,
know.
so
Take this long.
again, I wanted to point out our upcoming events that are coming up, conferences and our ESC events. For that information, if you go to our help section, when you go to help, there's training and webinars here. Click on training and webinars, and it's this upcoming events. And down here, when you scroll, here's each event, and it has a register button. This will take you to the ESC3 website where you can register. The ESC 4 and 5, right now, they don't have a link to the specific registration for our ESC event. This link will take you to the ESC 5 catalog until we have that link. It just goes to the catalog. For 13, they have posted their event. So when you click here, it'll take you to register for the Austin event. And then I believe for Region 9, there it just goes to the catalog right now as well. So once we get the link from them for those specific events, we'll replace this information and make the link active to go where you can register for those free conferences. And those conferences, again, they're the ESC staff that are Eduphoria trainers, and also us. Several of us are going to be at these events, and we have not only sessions that we are providing, some of them have Genius Bar, which is where we set aside a room. Any questions that you have that are specific needs that you are facing, like someone had that support ticket issue, if you're at the ESC event or you're experiencing something, or maybe you just need some hands-on time with an Eduphoria trained person or one of the Eduphoria staff, we are in that room and you just come in and we help you out. So there's that.
Yeah, it's very nice.
It is nice, and it is fun. Like Jenny and I, we get to go to these things, and they really are fun, and we really do like talking to our customers and interacting with people. And I just got back from a conference that was local here. I didn't get to like fly anywhere. It wasn't a like travel destination, but it was a really good conference, and I got to go and actually participate. I didn't have to sit in a booth, and I didn't have to present, and I got to listen to fellow educators talk about things that are going on in their districts, and it's just awesome. It's just
It
awesome
is.
to do that.
Yeah, it is.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you have a extraordinary week. We know that the end of the semester is fast upon us. We don't have any webinars until January. So this is our message to you that we hope that the end of your semester is fantastic and that your holiday time is even better. And we really thank you for taking your time to be with us, your very busy schedules. We really appreciate it. Those of you that are watching this recording, we appreciate you taking the time to watch the recording. But thank you, and we'll answer questions. And we hope you have a great week.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. I think, Joel, I know we're still on the webinar, but I think everybody's questions are answered except for a couple who are going to submit tickets.
Okay.
Yes, I think we're good.
Now I'll go through and look at them. All right, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Joel.